Good morning, everybody. Happy Thursday, August 21st. Welcome to today's hands-on live lab. My name is Brandon Swagman, so I appreciate everybody joining today. So our topic is going to be Palo Alto firewalls. This will be walking through one of our intermediate learning paths. Joining me today is Matt Vollmer. So I'd like to welcome Matt Vollmer to the hands-on live lab workshop. Just a small fun note, Matt is in now our second time presenter club on this. So with that, Matt, can you mind telling us about yourself?
Thanks, Brandon. So hey, everyone. My name is Matt Vollmer. I've been here at Worldwide, I think, a little bit more than 4 years, maybe just at 4 years now. My first 2 years here, I was an intern, actually under Brandon. I was working on the networking team. That's when I first got started with the Palo stuff. And now I'm full-time here. Brandon hired me February of my senior year of college, and I've been working on Palo and some other stuff. I'm on the security team now, but still get to keep Palo. And yeah, so today we'll be talking about the intermediate lab. As Brandon mentioned, I've done this once before for the fundamental lab and learning path. So if that's something you guys are interested in, the recording is on the platform somewhere, but there's also the lab. We'll talk about that. Today's lab is Palo Alto version 10. And we'll talk about that as well. But there is a version 11 lab on the platform if that's something that interests you. But we're here for intermediate version 10. So let me show you guys how to access.
I'm going to jump in here a little bit to kind of talk about the Palo Alto Intermediate Lab. So today's topic, we're going to walk through HTTPS or SSL decryption, some potential advanced URL filtering, and maybe some DNS tunneling based on timing as we go through this. At any points, as you follow along in the lab, Matt's going to navigate and show you how to launch the lab for yourself. This session today is all about learning. So please launch the lab, ask questions in the chat, and I will do my best to collect those questions, and relay them on to Matt here. So I guess that, let me start there with a little bit of a kind of open-ended question, Matt, is why HTTPS, SSL decryption? What made you put these sort of topics in an intermediate learning path?
Yeah, absolutely. So when I first got started here as an intern, the fundamental lab already existed. And all the modules were designed to be completed on their own. It's a big lab. There's like 7 different tasks to do, and each one of them can take like 30 minutes to an hour. They're pretty long. And so the whole point was one module, you're done, and you can restart whenever. So with the intermediate, I kind of wanted to get away from that. And you can still do each module independently. But one of the biggest things that I wanted to address was decrypting traffic and seeing that HTTPS traffic. And so once the first module that we'll go through today is how to decrypt that traffic. Once that's done, we can do other, unlock new practicals you couldn't do before without being able to decrypt the traffic.
Wonderful. So with that, let's dive in. No more questions. Let's get down to it.
Yeah, let's get to what we're here for, Palo Alto. So if you guys want to go to wwt.com, and once you're there, it's pretty simple to get to the lab. You all should have an account if you're here today. You can go to My Events, and you'll see Hands-On Lab Workshop. This is us right now, live now, funny enough. Here's Brandon and I's beautiful faces. If you come over here to Resources, you'll see the learning path. And if we have enough time, I'll go back and talk about some of the other stuff in this learning path. But basically, things that were easy to repeat and made sense for you guys to walk through are in the lab, and things that maybe weren't as interesting or weren't as hands-on became a video or article in the learning path. So if we have time, I'll cover some of this stuff. But let's do some hands-on stuff today.
So before we do have a question in the chat. Yes, this will be recorded, and yes, this will be posted to wwt.com in the same location Matt just navigated to, as well as it'll eventually find its way to YouTube. So yes, there is the recording, and it will exist in more than one place. Sorry, go ahead.
No, you're good. Thanks, Brandon. So if you scroll down here, you'll see lab. That's where we're going today. And you'll have the option to, yours will say launch lab. I've already launched mine. So open lab. Gives you a little overview here, and we'll get right into the lab environment.
So before you dive too far into the lab environment, I like pictures. Dive into that diagram here. What does this lab entail? So when somebody launches this lab, what do they get?
So this lab is ridiculously large. I get yelled at a lot for how many VMs are in this lab. Our labs are fully virtualized, and every time you launch one, it spins up a new copy. For you guys, we've pre-spun up enough for everyone to have one, so you don't have to sit here waiting. We keep a couple, like 3, but there's more than 3 of you, so some of you guys would be waiting. But anyway, in this lab, we have 5 firewalls managed by Panorama. We have a couple different machines. This is designed to simulate like a production environment. So we've got a couple different networks, a couple different machines. The 5 firewalls. In the lab, we really only use one of them, but they're designed to be a sandbox as well. So if there's something that you guys wanted to test from your environment, you could bring the configuration, import it, test it over here. We also have Expedition, which is something that a lot of people really requested. Expedition is how you take a different firewall configuration and turn it into a Palo Alto configuration. So if you guys were on, I won't say them, but if you're on somebody else and you want to convert the config, that's how you would do it.
Thank you. So there's a lot of possibilities here. So today, Matt's going to walk through a small portion of this lab. As you launch these labs, what I encourage you to do, this is all about learning together. Have some self-study time. Is there scenarios in a production environment or something you're curious from a configuration standard or a panorama down to the firewall? Tinker. Please play. Please have self-study time as you walk through some of these labs as well. So with that, I'll let you dive into the lab guide.
Absolutely. So when you guys launch the lab, you'll get you'll have the lab guide over here on the side. It's a little small, so I'll be pulling it up on the full tab for you. You guys can pop it out if you want by pushing this button. There's a quick introduction, but basically just tells you how to restart the lab if you mess something up or want to get back to the default config. So to show you guys that real quick, you just navigate to device, ignore licenses. I got to deal with that in November. And you can load a named configuration snapshot. And then here we have 54 initial lab config. That's getting back to basics. So if you mess something up or want to go back or it's not working right, that's how you could reset the lab and get back to a working stage.
So I will be the first one to tell you, as I walked through this lab earlier this week, I messed stuff up and I came back to this step to roll back my configurations. I hit that commit button. It just wasn't working like I wanted to. So I was using this rollback procedure. So that is a great first step in the have the lab. I appreciate the security blanket.
I do. I have to roll back all the time. Don't worry. The step that Brandon got messed up on was the same one that I got messed up on. So it's probably my fault. But we'll talk about that. All right, guys. So the first thing we'll be doing today is the SSL decryption. And as I mentioned, Palo can't really see into that HTTPS traffic unless you can decrypt it. It's more secure. So in order to see it, you need a decryption policy. And we're going to talk about that today. So yeah, first of all, let's go to monitor. This is where it's all the traffic that is seen by the rules is stored here. Basically, I want to show you guys how little traffic is decrypted. Let me pull up the big lab guide. I said I was going to do it, and then I didn't do it. So if you come in here, we have to add a new column, the decrypted column, to see traffic. It's not shown by default. Click this arrow, adjust columns. Oh, that's not right. Columns. And plenty of options, if it'll let me scroll. Maybe. Decrypted. We'll add the decryption column, and you can see none of this is decrypted. You can also sort. Where's the string? Which string do I need? This guy. If we put this in the search bar, you may see some things that say yes from when I've decrypted traffic in the past, but pretty much everything is going to be no. Yeah, I can't even find anything. It'll think for a little bit and maybe find something, but not a lot of traffic has been decrypted.
Perfect. I'm going to interrupt one little time. So just kind of a usability format. In the lower left-hand corner, there's a square with an arrow pointing out of that. If you select that, that will open your lab guide into a larger window. Then you can click between reading. If you have dual monitors, you can have the lab guide on one and the topology or the remote desktop on the other. So kind of a usability shortcut feature to make life a little bit easier.
Same thing if you want to pop out the jump box. Up here, you can pop this out and you'll get it in a bigger window. Let's do that actually. I like that more. There it goes. All right. So guys, we can see none of the traffic was decrypted. Here's an example. If it was decrypted, you would have seen yes in that column, but there may not be. So let's talk about decryption. So Palo, we can use these self-signed certificates in order to get our traffic decrypted and see what is flowing between what. So if we come over here to device, and certificates, here's where we create our certificates. So the first one we're going to make is our trusted root authority. We'll call this one, you got to go down here and hit generate. This will be our auth cert. Common name, I like not real, but you can name it whatever you want. It'll be our certificate authority. And as Brandon mentioned, and down here in the cryptographic settings, you can increase how many bits it is. More bits, more computational power, more secure, correct?
Yes, sir.
I don't play around with that. Generate. And now we have our auth cert. We got to come in here real quick. And we got to do trusted root certificate authority, because this is going to be our main guy here. Now, this is the part that I and Brandon also messed up, so maybe the lab guy needs to be more clear. But we need our forward trust, who will be signed by not real 2. And he is signed by. So this is, if you don't get this right, it won't work. And the lab guy doesn't make this clear enough. But it's signed by our auth cert. We'll generate this. And if you do it right, it'll stack the 2 up like that. You want it to be underneath it. And this is our forward trust cert, so we need to let the firewall know this is our forward trust cert. And we'll create one more, our untrust. Untrust. Oh, forgot to add not real 3. Pretty simple. Just making 3 certs. And then you come over here and commit. That's saving our changes to the firewall.
So why that commit? So anybody who has questions, a reminder, please post them in chat if you're walking through the lab, or if you have one after the chat, please reach out as well through the event page to ask questions. Question for you, Matt. Why did I create 3 certs? That was one as I walked through the lab. What are the 3 certs? Why 3 certs? What's their function?
Yeah, so the main cert, the auth cert, that's the certificate authority. He's in charge. And he basically says, this is, words are hard. He's in charge. Everybody underneath him reports back to him. He's the guy. The forward trust cert, that's the one, anything that is using this is trusted. We know it's safe because, and he tells the auth cert it's safe according to the firewall. The untrust cert, I don't actually know if you need him, but that everything that would fall under that is not safe. Don't use. Yeah, we'll talk about that more in the decryption policy.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. And I actually forgot to do something, so we get to commit again. So if there's any questions, I forgot to hit forward untrust. But if we have any questions so far, Brandon?
No questions in chat yet. So why we commit that? So, kind of feeding on your answer there on the cert is one of the steps later is you're going to install the cert. I think it's on branch 1 workstation. Yes, so a lot of this lab, as you walk through it on your own or watch Matt today, will be done on branch 1 within that topology.
Yeah, by default, we use the branch 1 firewall, so everything reports back to the branch 1 Windows VM and the branch 1 firewall. It was funny, when I was trying to learn how to do this on my own, I'm relatively new to all of this. And back when I was making this lab, I was reading the Palo documentation. I was having trouble. I tried this a couple of times, and I just couldn't get it to work. And then I asked, what is his role? Is he a security
sales engineer, sales architect?
Yeah. Really smart guy. I reached out to Matt Harding, and I was like, Matt, how do I do this? And he's like, all right, let's get on a call. And within like 5 minutes, it made sense. So thanks, Matt. But almost done here. Cool. All right. Now that we generated these 3 certs, we'll skip down here a little bit. Committing. All right. Time to import our cert. So we're going to export this cert from Palo Alto, the firewall here, our forward trust cert. Export certificate. And we'll download that. And then we'll come back to the desktop here, open our RDP sessions folder. And we're going to open the branch 1 Windows 10 client. And then we're going to come back here, hijack this file explorer. And once we sign in, we'll drag this over here and install this guy.
Perfect. As you walk through there will be some commitments. There'll be some loading pages. There's a couple different things as you walk through the page. So there's quite a bit of time to do a little bit of reading, bounce between the lab guide and bounce between the lab itself as you go through some of this. So now you're in the branch 1 workstation. Yes, call it the client side of the firewall, if you will.
Yeah, the
inside. This
guy, the overarching, is like our jump box. So he's on the management network. He has access to everything. But this is like an actual computer in the environment. All right. I got to remember where we're supposed to install the cert. The Trusted Root Certification Authority Store. So there's a couple, spoilers, there's a couple options of where to install the cert. You just right click, install certificate. We'll do it for the current user. And we're going to do it in a specific store. The trusted root certificate authority. It goes in here. And then you just kind of click through, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, it's fine. The import was successful. All right. And now we're going to go decrypt. So we'll come back over here to our lab workstation and go to objects. And I believe it's decryption profile. Yeah, down there. I just didn't scroll far enough. Decryption profile. Make a decryption profile. So we've imported the certificate, but Palo doesn't know to use it yet. We have to put it into a policy, like a rule on the firewall. And in order to do that, it needs to know which decryption profile to use. So first, we'll generate a new decryption profile. And there's plenty of settings here. You can tell it to block sessions with expired certs, untrusted, whatever. And we're going to do for no decryption. You probably shouldn't actually do this in a production environment, but this is the easiest way to test it. So we're going to select, we're actually doing SSL forward proxy. It is our forward truster. We're just going to block sessions with expired certificates. But there's plenty of different settings in here. Decryption. Yeah, this is all we're doing for this use case. And we will commit.
So why this one commits, kind of an awesome question. We know that the topology itself, the lab itself, offers more than what's there. What is something you can do that's not covered in this lab guide? What would be a self-study experiment? You mentioned Windows 10. I'm sorry, the software version of Palo Alto coming into life here. What are some things you can do in this lab as a self-study?
Yeah, absolutely. So one thing that I like to mention is the Palo Alto Firewall. The one we're using right now today is version 10.2, which is end of life very soon. And they've extended it for another year after that. But if you're still using it in your environment, it might be time to consider upgrading to 11.2 or 11.1. We have a fundamental version of the lab out there that is Palo v11. So you could go test things there, or if you guys would rather use, it's the same environment with different versions of firewalls. Or you can come in here and practice upgrading. It's really simple, and I'll show you guys how to do that later if we have time. But yeah, you could practice upgrading the version of the firewall. As I mentioned before, everyone loves Expedition. That was one thing that was widely requested, taking a firewall configuration file from some other company and converting it to a Palo, and then importing it. That'd be a great way to practice. Setting up policies to block whatever you want. We'll get into the blocking in app profiles and stuff later, but perfect. Yeah, stuff like that. Okay.
Looks like our commit took.
Yes, sir. So now that we've created our decryption profile, we need to add it to a policy. So we're going to make a new rule. Oh, I'm sorry. We need a decryption rule, not a regular rule. Create our decryption rule. And we're going to set it to decrypt using the rule we made, and the type is being forward proxy. I keep wanting to alt-tab, but I don't need to alt-tab. Source, any, destination, any, and options, decryption policy, profile, the one we just made. Make sure I got all the settings right. Looks good.
Walk me through that policy there. So you'd hit the any in a firewall button there. So flags went off there.
Yes, sir.
So you created a policy that says from any IP source.
Any source to any destination, we're going to decrypt.
Perfect. There's a lot happened there in an any rule. I wanted to make sure we communicated that.
We allow all traffic no matter what. No, we actually do in this environment. You shouldn't do that either. You probably don't also want to decrypt all traffic in a production environment. You'd want to decrypt things that could be more problematic, to look in and see what people are actually doing, if they're going to like an untrusted zone. But for our test case, we're just going to decrypt everything. The computational power on a production environment may not like that, but for our use case, it's okay. Let's go ahead and commit.
That makes sense. Is that closed there? Yeah, I wanted to make sure. So I guess if you were in a production environment, your source and your destination, your source could probably be your corporate network, maybe to a DMZ, maybe to
Out to the outside internet.
Outside internet. Maybe there is coming from a previous life experience. There was traffic we didn't want to decrypt because of its sensitive nature,
Privacy concerns,
exactly.
Violations. Yeah,
and that's where that sort of configurations would take place.
yes, sir.
All right. Feels like that last 98, 99, that last 2% of the commit.
Sometimes it'll even say it's done at 99. I don't know what else it's doing for the last 1%, but maybe it's a rounding thing. I don't know.
Yeah, it's a nice pause through the podcast, through this workshop today.
See, look, it says configuration committed, and it still said 99, but whatever. All right. Now, let's go fact check, make sure everything worked okay. So we'll log back into the branch 1 client. And first, we're going to click on that little, I thought it always used to be a lock, but I guess it's the menu and then the lock. And we'll go check and see what it's using. Whoa. And we should see our certificate in here. I don't care, Chrome. Thank you. Connection is secured. Certificate is valid. And as you can see, not real 2.
Oh, that's a good test. Not real too. That one jumps out.
Yeah, that's really secure. But so now we can see that our Palo Alto is signing it. And we'll go to like Facebook. That's my favorite example. We always use Facebook. Facebook.com. And if we come back to you are the firewall. Minimize this. And we go back to monitor our traffic. You can see some decrypted traffic now. Yay.
Okay, I'm a visual person. Can you jump back to the lab diagram here? Kind of give us an example of where the Windows workstation is. We launched wwt.com and facebook.com. Where is that workstation and where does it egress out towards the internet? So,
I was hoping it'd get a little bit bigger here.
Okay. So I see branch 1 there at the bottom left.
So here's branch 1. I was hoping the workstation was on here, but it's not. But yeah, so this is the branch firewall, as you can see. So these guys are talking, and they jump out to the outside internet, and that's how we get access to Facebook. So the firewall is here in the middle, so it decrypts the traffic that is coming from branch 1 to internet. I guess we don't need to see jump box necessarily to recognize that.
So in this example, branch 1 is offloading internet-bound traffic or internet-destined traffic directly to the internet. It's not sending it through the data center, through IPsec tunnels or anything of that nature.
It flows through that branch 1 firewall we're working on and goes out to the internet.
Okay. So, I mean, I would assume with some routing logic, IPsec tunnels, you could provision this flow to go all the way back to the data center, decrypt there, and out to the internet. It's not what the lab guide has, probably a really advanced corner case, but something you could potentially walk through.
Yeah, if you guys wanted to, I'm sure you could figure it out. But as you can see here, the application was Facebook-based, so we know that it can now see, and you have to make sure resolve hostname is checked. But now we can see that we're getting out to Facebook. Okay, so that, I believe, is it for Module 1. But now that we have SSL Decryption working, let's see what else we can do.
Yeah. And reminder, if anybody has any questions walking through the decryption portion, I know SSL is a big subject, decryption is a big subject, and we went through it rather quickly. But if you have questions, please don't hesitate to put them in chat. If you have scenarios or something you would like to see in the lab and for us in the future, please put that out. We're always looking for content inspiration as well.
Absolutely. As I mentioned, the fundamental lab is like 8 modules. This one is usually 4. We have one out right now. Right now it's only 3. So I'm always accepting ideas. And I'd like to eventually make an advanced version of the lab when I have the time. So if you guys have use cases or whatever, send us a message, email me. It's just my name at worldwide.com. Yeah, we'll talk about that more later. But perfect. All right. So next up, we got advanced URL filtering. So Palo provides this website, the test a site website, so you can see what category a website belongs to. They have things broken into categories. So if you'd rather block, you could block one website, or they call them applications. So if you wanted to block Facebook, you could block like the whole app. But if you want to block the whole category, like let's say you don't want people going to social, I think it's social network is the category Facebook belongs to. That would block Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, everybody at once. But if you want to see who it belongs to, you can use the test a site website. You can see here I tested worldwide.com. Risk level low. Good. I'm glad. Category business. Yeah. So let's make a URL filtering profile to block things in a specific URL category. So we're going to come into our objects and URL filtering. It's underneath our security profiles here, URL filtering. And we're going to create a new category. So click add down at the bottom, give it a name, and we're going to search for malware, and we're going to tell it to block, which you'd think it would do by default. But malware, block. We don't want to go to any malware. Excuse me, test URL filter. And I think it's also phishing, excuse me, phishing. We're going to add search up here for phishing. And one of the other options, instead of just block, we're going to do continue. And then we need to add it to a policy. So we're going to come back over here to policies, create a new security policy. Because same thing with like the decryption, you can create the profile, but it's not going to do anything until you add it to a rule on the firewall. So we'll come back up here to security policies. Here's our allow any. But we're going to create a new rule, test URL. Once again, source is going to be any, destination any. And I believe it's in here. Wait, no, here. We're going to set the profile to profiles, or profile setting, profile type to profiles. You could do group if you wanted to make, this comes up more in a production environment, but each profile you could set individually on a rule, or you could create a group to do them all at once. Saves you a couple clicks. We're going to do profiles. And for URL filtering, we're going to set it to our test URL filtering. And double check so you guys don't have to sit through another commit. Oh yeah, I would have forgot to do this. We'll create our rule and we're going to move it up to the top because by default it goes underneath our, oh my God, just go up, dude. It's fighting me today. Move up. Move top. Cool. And
Why'd you do that? I'm going to pause there. That seemed very important. Why'd you move that rule to the top?
It does the rules in order. So because I have the allow all temporary here, that rule's going to say traffic, yeah, go ahead. And it's not even going to bother to use our newly created profile. So if we don't do this, you guys would be laughing because it wouldn't have worked and I mess up my live demo.
So while we do another commit here, so there is a question in chat. From a compliance standpoint, are there specific things we should keep in mind when setting up this policy, when setting up the policies? I assume this is probably kind of a vertical question. So can you kind of walk through some examples, maybe for healthcare, maybe for a payment card type? Is there a manufacturing? Are there situations in which a compliance standpoint we wouldn't want to set up a decryption policy?
Absolutely. So when I set the traffic to decrypt everything, there are some things, as we kind of touched on, you shouldn't decrypt. If you have traffic that is protected information, depending on, not really my area, I don't know all the laws, but like HIPAA information or like credit card info, you should not decrypt that. You don't need to see that. There are laws and regulations. I think there's a way to set it to check for those things specifically. I know like when you do DLP, Palo has like filters that recognize those patterns and can, stop the exfiltration of that from your environment. I assume there's the same way to stop on the infiltration.
Yeah, I would assume this is very much a vertical base. For a banking customer, it may look like this. For a healthcare customer,
Yeah.
These are the things. But to your point, it does go around sensitive information. What should we encrypt and inspect, and what is better to pass off without inspection?
Absolutely. Okay, so now that I'm pretty sure I committed, I think that was what was just happening. We're going to come down here and test. So once again, we're going to log into our branch 1 client. And I got a couple of links on the desktop for us to test. So these are some test URLs that Palo has provided. And so this is one of the things Brandon, was asking, why did I choose this order? If you don't set these up with URL filter or SSL decryption, you can see right now this is an HTTP link, which will work without SSL decryption. But if you want it to be seen by Palo, you have to have the decryption to see the HTTPS links. So we can go to this, and as you can see, it's blocked because our URL or our policy is working and our decryption are both working. And we're able to see this default block page. you're able to customize those. And also, let's check this phishing one real quick. And I want to show off the continue option. It tells you, hey, you probably shouldn't go to this website. You're going to get phishing. But I don't care. Let's go anyway.
So that was the difference between what you on the first tab versus the second tab. The second tab had a continue. Yes. And I believe you provisioned that in one of the profiles. Am I connecting dots here?
Yes, sir.
Accurately?
Yes, sir. If we come back here and we look, so for phishing, I set it to continue. Versus malware, we just fully block it.
Perfect.
All right. Let's test it with some real websites. All right. Oh, I guess we're supposed to check the firewall logs. Let's look at the firewall logs. You can come down here and we can see, oh, look, someone tried to go to a phishing website based on our rule here with the continue action. You can see the application was web browsing. And I'm looking for rule. Maybe that column isn't there. But here's the rule, or the URL, excuse me. The category why was blocked, source, destination. And the rule is probably, it's going to take a, go down. Okay, whatever. It would show the rule being the rule that blocked it.
I get it. There's a lot of information you can add by right-clicking and seeing varying
You can see anything.
Makes sense.
All right. And here's me talking about what I told you guys earlier. So if you have SSL decryption set up, you can add the S and it will still work. Let's make a custom category. I mean, I hate Facebook. We're blocking Facebook. So we come back over here.
So I do have a question. I'm going to interrupt you.
Yes,
in that
sir.
log you were just in, do you need decryption to see the full URL? So go back to that log you just had there, the screen. Would the full URL be there without encryption?
If it's encrypted traffic, you're not going to get the full URL. I don't think it's going to block it. If you don't decrypt it, it's not going to see what's on the website. It might catch it, but from my experience, no. Without the decryption, it can't see that is a phishing or a malware website. It won't know to block it. So no, you would not see that URL.
Perfect. Thank you. We had a question come in. I wanted to interrupt while I was in the moment, so I'll let you resume our reschedule.
All right.
Back to our broadcast.
So now we're going to create a custom URL category. So we'll go to Objects, Custom Objects, URL Category. URL Category. All right. Let's add a blah, blah, blah. That was just warning you how to set them up. We're going to create a new one called Test. And down here, we're going to set... I thought I told it what to put in it. Oh, the screenshot is not loading. You're just adding Facebook and worldwide. And I'll work on the screenshot. Sorry about that, everybody. Facebook.com and wwt.com. Add our test policy to URL list. And in here, I guess you could set up, if we're talking about websites to not decrypt, you could make a category for websites you shouldn't decrypt, like banking websites or information, and you could set that here. Thanks for the layup on the custom no decrypt, Palo. Thank you, guys. All right. And now we're going to, once again, we need to add this to a rule. So we're going to set up a URL filtering profile.
Question while you were on that. Could you use wildcards when you were creating those custom URLs?
Absolutely. That was I skipped through the note, but it tells you to use, you can use asterisk or whatever. And if you use / it's exact. It has to be that exact URL. Asterisk lets you use wildcard, whatever you want to do there. We're going to use our test URL filtering policy. You can see our new test object has shown up. We're going to set this to block. It should auto-populate both of those to block. Hit OK. And we need to come back to our policy and make sure we update our policy as well. And we're going to commit our changes. So 1 second. This should, I use the same one. I think the lab guide I have you make a new rule. I'm reusing it. We should be good to go with this guy. But just to double check. Let's commit those changes. Make sure the firewall rule is still on top here. And while that commits, are there any questions, Brandon?
No, I don't have questions, but I have a challenge for you for future content.
What have we got?
Okay. So a person in chat said, for interesting content, they would love to troubleshoot DNS cache poisoning and walk through how to combat both at the host and the firewall level.
Okay. You want to take a note of that for me?
I will. So what I just heard from you say is challenge accepted going into the future.
I don't know how to do that, but we'll figure it out.
So just some inspiration. Appreciate it. As always, please keep the chats coming in, and any sort of content inspiration you would like to see from wwt.com, labs and learning, please post in chat. Thank you. And with that, our commit's wrapping up.
Just about. Let's see if it says it again. Will it commit or will it get to 100%?
Why this last few last commits, please go to launch the lab. You're going to go to wwt.com, my events, and then you'll see the event under the resource tab of that event. Enroll in the learning path. And at the bottom of the learning path, there'll be videos. There'll be a lab you can launch to go with it. So Matt's playing along. So wwt.com, my events, if you joined late.
You got to go over your resources, and here's learning path.
There you go.
Down here near the bottom, you can see the lab. You can launch the lab from here.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. Okay, commit done. We are testing our blocking. It may not work for Facebook. Don't laugh. There is a reason why, and I'll explain. Don't make fun of me. It's a live demo. And I'll show you how to make it work for Facebook. So, worldwide worked. That is a goof. What did I do wrong? Let's find out. Block on the test category. Test block. The rule is set up. That should be right.
If you're not making mistakes in labs, you're not learning. That's our general rule here. All of these labs are built to learn. So if it's not working, that's exactly what we're meant to do here.
I expected it to not work for Facebook. The fact that it didn't work for this is funny. Whatever. I'll tell you why it shouldn't work for Facebook, and you can pretend that worldwide got blocked. So if we go to Facebook here, you can see, oh my God, it worked for Facebook. Who would have thought? So it should have worked for worldwide. I must have misinput something, but it has worked in the past, I promise. Facebook uses a protocol sometimes, and a lot of other websites do, called Quick. And Quick is harder to block than other protocols. It's very slippery. And so in the lab guide here, we talk about creating here's me committing. Hey, look, it blocked Facebook and worldwide. We have to add a new rule called block Quick. And we'll do that real quick.
Tell me about Quick. What is Quick?
It's a routing protocol. I don't know too much about it. It's a newer routing protocol they wanted to try to address.
Comparable to HTTP, HTTPS? Would that be an alternate?
I think it's comparable. Yeah.
Okay.
Quick block. Source. Any. Destination. Any. Palo also has trouble seeing into Quick. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. So we're just gonna, let's see, how do I do this? Service URL category, we're gonna create a new service for Quick. New service, Quick. And it uses, I think it's UDP. 80 and 443 on UDP. Actions, make sure you set this to block or deny. Sometimes it's block. And once again, we got to bring this guy up to the top. Commit that. And now, if my other rule was working, sorry guys, if we were to try to go to Facebook, it would block that traffic as well. This stops Facebook from using the Quick. I'm going to guess it's faster because it's called Quick. It'll stop it from using Quick, so Facebook will drop down to using a regular protocol, and then our other rule will catch it and see that traffic and able to block that.
Perfect. So kind of give us an event as you look forward into the future here. We're going through different advanced URL filterings. We're about 20 minutes left in the conversation today, so I don't want to rush, but I want to kind of walk through what is the last module of this lab you have out there, kind of give an idea.
So that's it for this module. I'm sorry the last practical didn't work, guys. Maybe if you guys do it, it'll work for you and you'll feel smarter than me. The last module here is DNS tunneling and security. So this is, we were talking about exfiltrating data. We log in here and we're going to create a spyware profile. And you can set up a default or a policy here. There's all sorts of policies in this. This is really extensive. But we're just setting up this is me talking about it. But we go down here, we block grayware domains. And if you remember those links that we went to earlier, we just have a test website where we block a grayware domain, set up a sinkhole, test our policy. The one thing that I wanted to, it may actually only be an article. One of the articles, this is DNS, and it blocks like ad tracking and those types of websites. One of the articles in the learning path talks about, this is enterprise DLP. This is what I was thinking of, sorry. In this, we talk about blocking specific data patterns. So we can block like that payment card, credit card number stuff. We can stop that information from leaving based on pattern recognition. And other things within Palo, you can set it to block that type of traffic leaving your network.
So I'm going to pause there for a second there because we do have a question. It says, does apart from URL filtering WAF configurations is available in Palo Alto? When I hear data loss protection DLP, I think web application firewall. So I guess there is some functionality in web application firewall. Is that particular topic covered inside of the lab/learning path, or is that something we could potentially cover? I'm gonna call it WAF stuff. Could we do WAF stuff in the advanced learning series?
Yeah, we don't cover WAF right now. I'd be happy to add some of that, but that is not currently included in any of our
inspiration for future.
Yes, sir. Thank you. So sorry. Talking about this, we just talked about a couple DNS security options. There is a fourth module that isn't in here right now. We took it out for the live lab. But we also have XOR in the environment, so you can test using Palo's XOR. As I mentioned, we have Expedition. The lab also has artificial traffic through Ixia Breaking Point, if you wanted to run that. Plenty of other firewalls. All sorts of firewalls managed by Panorama. Let's jump back over here to the learning path. So we've spent a lot of time on the lab. And within the learning path, we have a couple of videos of me explaining some of the stuff you learned in the lab. So if you don't have time to go through the lab hands-on yourself, or you prefer to learn by watching, you can watch me do the same practical for a couple of these, and there might be some other information or use cases in these videos, and they work because it's a video and not a lab demo. So yeah, a couple of these are just hand in hand with what happened, and a couple of these other practicals are things that set Palo apart or make it unique. So
I have to say, for me, when it comes to learning, repetition is key. So be able to watch a video, then do it. That is key. And number one, I get a video so I don't feel alone when I'm clicking in the lab or put on the spot. So the video is a nice complementary.
You can listen to me tell you what to do if this wasn't good enough for you already. But we talk about like the cloud identity engine, enterprise DLP, using the firewalls and IPS. And a lot of these articles were suggestions from people like you guys that had an idea and they wanted to see something in the lab. They reached out and said, hey, I'd really like to learn about, or I have a customer that wants to know more about this. So then I go out and research and write an article for people to read that's fairly consumable. Then we have the lab. And as I mentioned, I wanted to talk about this. We talked about it a little bit earlier, but 10.2 is coming to end of life. So if you'd like and you want to practice an upgrade, I can show you guys how to do that real quick. Thank you, Mr. Marston, for the idea, if you're watching. We come down here to software. There it is. And here it lists all the software versions available. And as you saw, it doesn't even show what we have installed. That's weird. One of these is installed. We have 10.2 something installed. And end of life coming. So let's install. Oh, let me refresh. Maybe it'll show it. I want 11.2. All right, we're getting 11.1. We'll install 11.1. I believe failed to download. Okay.
I think it's your policy. You're probably decrypting your own traffic.
Maybe 11 will let me have this one. We'll do 11. Okay, no, we won't. It worked yesterday. But this is how you download the policy, or the update. And then you can install it from here. If you give me 1 second, I'll show you on another machine. This is just another copy I've spun up. We'll go in here real quick. We were going to use this one, but I already upgraded it, and I didn't feel like downgrading.
This gives you a really good side-by-side of version 10 to version 11 to see the differences, where I click, what the GUIs change. And anybody that's looking to call it a production cut sheet or preparing for their change request in production is you don't want to do it for the first time in production. You can use the www.lam to
use our
stage
labs. So as you can see over here, we have 11.2. And as you'll notice, it's very similar. They kept the manual same. Like some of the older versions, like I think we had 9 a lab when I first started, and I used like 7 in college. they look way different. But here, if we come over to software over here, I'll look at that, it's going to show up. We have 11.2 downloaded and installed. So all you have to do is download. I wonder if this will work, just to show you guys what it looks like. Yeah, so it'll download. The download's pretty quick. The install process takes a while because it's installing a new firmware version. But you download, install. I think at one point, and I don't know if you know, Brandon, you used to have to download the major feature release along the way. You used to have to download like 11.0 and then 11.2 and then 11.2. Whatever if you wanted to get to that version. Now you can just go straight there. It does throw a warning. It's like, make sure you take a snapshot and download your configuration. And that's another thing I can talk about while this downloads.
I do have a question.
Yeah.
Is there anything in the lab today that addressed DNS sinkhole?
Yeah, we talk about it in that last module. You can walk through module 3. We don't have enough time, sorry. But module 3 mentions like testing DNS sinkhole and sending things to that specific.
That makes sense. So we'll refer them to module 3 of the lab. Thank you.
Sir. And there should, I don't know if it errored out. There should be an install button. Maybe it doesn't like that it's an older version. But yeah, that's how you download and install the new version. Oh, I wanted to show you. So if you wanted to bring over a configuration, so let's say you guys are using a different firewall and you want to test. So you could come into Expedition, log in Expedition. The credentials are in the lab guide that you guys will have access to anytime you launch any of the labs. You could download or upload your configuration, download it, and then over here you could load a configuration or upload. You have to import it first, but import your own configuration, test it, do whatever you want there. And if you like it, you can even export it and take it back home to your guys' environment.
Perfect.
Any other questions?
Yep. So one question that just came in a chat is, how long do they get the launched lab? The question is at the top right of your screen. You'll see a little bit of a timer there. I don't have my glass. I got my glasses. It's too far. 72 hours. So every lab launch you get, you will get at the timer for your lab reservation. There is a top. What happened essentially is the lab gets destroyed, and at the new one you could launch a new lab and bring up a new copy. At that point you could reach out into a chat message and ask for the duration to be extended as well if you're a customer of WWT. A couple different ways, but the duration of your lab is 72 hours.
Yeah, and as far as I know, if you are here listening to me right now, you have access to launch a lab whenever you want. All of our labs are, or not all of them, but most of them are on-demand labs. So anytime you can come in, launch a lab, and get right to it.
So I'm going to give a few more minutes for questions or even inspirations to kind of roll in as we get towards the bottom 10 minutes of the hour here. So question for you, and I ask this for everybody that comes in and does a live lab workshops. Starting building this lab, building this learning path, and getting to the end, what is the big thing you learned? That aha moment of, I want to pass this piece of knowledge on.
Yeah, absolutely. So right when I first started, and I still kind of struggle with this, but as I mentioned, when I first started here as an intern, this was the lab that Brandon was like, hey, I'd like you to take this over. And I didn't really know anything at all back then. So when I was reading through the modules, if something didn't make sense to me, or I was like, why did they do that? Then I'd go research that. And I'm like, hey, I could add this to the lab and recreate that. And that would be something cool for people to follow along. So that's kind of like the process I've kept with me, is if I'm doing something and it doesn't make sense, I should figure out why. And then since it's the first time I learned how to do it, it's pretty easy to explain what I learned. Sometimes I don't understand all parts of it, and I have to, ask someone that's been in the field for longer than I, or someone with more experience. But then they can tell me the why. That's what we try to keep our labs from just do this. We try to include why are we doing this as well. And that's kind of how I've gotten to where we are.
So I feel like you just told me we're going to live vicariously through your experience by walking through from the fundamentals content, which I'll post in chat, to what we have here today is the intermediate content, and talk about going into the future. So I know we've tossed out some ideas or inspiration for you on future content. What kind of future content did you already have in store?
Yeah, so we really want an advanced lab at some point. The Palo labs are some of our most consumed lab. I'd like to make an advanced. Welcome to take as many ideas as you guys have. Sometimes in our advanced, we include integrations with other companies. So that would be, or other software. So that could be something we could show off. As I've mentioned a couple of times now, version 10 is end of life. So I will eventually update this lab to Palo version 11. I just had to update to Windows 11, so I need a cooldown. Give me a second. But then I'll update it to Palo 11 as well. And we might keep 10 around as a sandbox for a little bit until it's fully decommissioned. But yeah, update this lab. There already is. What would be the best way to pull this up? Maybe say extra resources. There is a.
Oh, good. Let's show everybody how to navigate. So at the top, if you go learn from us, and you go to labs and learning, and hit scroll.
Just adding a bunch of stuff.
Scroll way to the top, back to the top, back to the top.
Sorry.
Explore library there in the banner. Or hit the library button, either one. So this would be all of the labs and learning paths on wwt.com. So on the right, you have some filters. You could search and tell me, give me all the labs, give me all the paths, give me all the series, give me this particular partner, give me this particular solution set. So there's quite a bit of labs and learning paths that's out here. So if you want to know the difference or kind of talk through the difference, lab is the topology you launch, you get to access. When you take that topology and you couple it with videos, we now have a learning path. And when I take multiple learning paths and couple them together, that's when we have a learning series. So that's kind of the hierarchy of our content types when it comes to wwt.com. But all of this content, all labs and learning are part of wwt.com and are available to all customers and partners. Question for you. This is when it came in chat. What is your favorite feature of Palo Alto Firewalls?
My favorite feature? I would have to go with, I really like the SSL decryption. I don't know why. And something else I really like, I'll give you guys a little bit of homework. I think the wildfire malware, like sandboxing, is really cool. That's featured in the Foundations lab. So I think it's module 4, maybe. Do it all, you'll like it. But in there, it's basically any unknown thing that it hasn't seen before. If you set up a malware or a wildfire sandboxing, if it sees a file that it doesn't recognize, it sends it up there. And they sandbox it for you. It's pretty good at stopping the 0 days. I think that was really neat. That was one thing that I learned. I was like, wow, this is awesome. I don't know. I also really like the SSL decryption.
I get it. So first of all, let's put this right here towards the end. So number one, thank you for coming back to our hands-on live lab workshop and presenting. Welcome
Absolutely.
to the 2-time presenter club. For everybody out there, you will have the lab for about 72 hours. You can launch it through the My Events. Again, this it was recorded and will be published to wwt.com as well as YouTube. I greatly appreciate everybody's time and questions and participation today, and even inspiration going into new content for the future. Up next, we will have on September 4th, we're going to have a hands-on live lab workshop for Cisco networking layer 2 technologies, aka switching, with Francisco Alvarez. So invites for our next hands-on live lab workshop will be going out soon. Again, I appreciate everybody's time. Thank you. Have a great day, everybody.
Thank you.